And so, as was mentioned, I'm with Cotton Incorporated, and I'm a director of agricultural research, and I focus on the pathology and nematology area of research. So just to kind of kick it off, because several people may not know exactly who I am and kind of what my background is, I'm going to jump into a little bit more about me and where I've come from. So I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Minnesota in plant biology. I'm from Minnesota, so I'm very familiar with the cold white north, but I've slowly kind of tried to move my way southward. Though I didn't do that right away, I got my master's at the University of Idaho. I did quite a bit on fusarium head blight research on wheat in plant sciences, and then moved over to the University of Illinois and got a PhD in crop sciences. I've done a lot of field crop research over the years, and then twisted into doing nematology work at Iowa State University for my postdoc. So what that kind of culminated in is I became a state extension field crop plant pathologist at the University of Missouri prior to this position. And there I focused on corn, soybean, wheat, and other crop production. So there were a lot of crops at Missouri, but I emphasized in applied disease and nematode management. And what that really meant is this was an integrated disease management position. So I worked in everything from rain-fed systems to irrigated systems, looked at applied management trials with seed treatments, foliar fungicides, emerging disease and nematode threats, looking from bench all the way into the field production system. And so I have a very broad background in a lot of different crops, as well as a lot of different systems. And the other thing to know about me that is a little bit unique is a little bit about my family history. I am a third generation plant pathologist. Now, we hear a lot about multi-generational farming families, but it is not common to have a multi-generational plant pathology family. Oftentimes you find 2 generations, but it is exceedingly rare to find 3 generations. So my grandfather was a retired plant pathologist from the University of Minnesota. He passed a couple of years ago. My aunt is retired from the University of Illinois, and I was formerly at the University of Missouri. So all of us have been extension plant pathology faculty members at universities. Now, what this means is my family is very focused on not only plant pathology and understanding the problems that go along with plants and pathogens and how those interact, but also extension and service to growers. So this is deeply ingrained in me and a very important thing as I kind of move forward and the way that I focus on what I'm doing here. So that leads me into kind of the philosophy behind what I'm looking for with the program that's in plant pathology at Cotton Incorporated. The first part of the philosophy is looking at multidisciplinary team building. We can't just have plant pathologists doing plant pathology and that's it. Plant pathology needs multidisciplinary teams, which include breeders, agricultural engineers, other individuals, agronomists, and growers alike, all to come together to solve these problems. This means developing short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. And those goals need to be focused on the stakeholders themselves, because innovation might begin at the bench, but it needs to have a clear line into the field. And this picture here really kind of depicts that. A lot of times, those that are working in the lab don't have an opportunity to be out in the field, or don't get that time to be in the field and actually see what's happening or what that end goal really is. And so finding a way to bring those individuals into the field to see what that end goal really is an important thing. And the other part of my philosophy is understanding the fact that production is part of a global community. We need to not only find these solutions for growers as part of that global community, but the fact that we need to provide accessibility for growers to those solutions that are provided. So what does this mean? There's some key areas of development that I'm focusing on as I've come into this position. First of all, looking at emerging and re-emerging disease threats. Second of all, looking at new technologies and innovative applications and how they might be applied in the cotton production systems. And thirdly, information accessibility. In the area of emerging and re-emerging threats, there's some key pathogens that we're focusing on right now. First off, areolate mildew, which is a problem in South America as well as other areas of the world and can cause substantial yield losses. It has been detected in the US and in recent years, and trying to figure out what that actually looks like overall as a yield threat, right? And that is the picture that is on the far right. And we can see substantial losses in the southeastern US, but as it's moving around in that area, where can we see the most damage and what does that complex actually look like? We also have heard about target spot over the last few years. What type of damage potential does this disease have? What kind of mitigation strategies should we be looking at? Now, FOV4 is another complex that has been on the radar for several years, but what does this disease actually entail, and what types of problems are we actually facing, and what is its spread? What is its risk of spread? The other problem that we have is there are viral threats that are changing and always emerging and re-emerging in different areas, and there are risks to recombination. So what does that mean for cotton production? There are some key issues globally that we're looking at that we don't want to have emerge in US cotton production. So that kind of leads into looking at global connections with researchers and who are studying them in their native environments and connecting with that research so that we can minimize the impacts that these diseases have on US cotton production. With all of these things combined, we can better understand how these emerging and re-emerging threats might be impacting not only our production, but how we can prevent some of these threats from coming to the US and causing damage. Now, moving into the new technologies and innovative applications, predictive modeling has kind of been one of those buzzwords or phrases, if you will. Things like areolate mildew that I just mentioned and target spot have been part of this predictive modeling movement in recent years, along with looking at how seedling diseases can be combined with that. There is something called the National Predictive Modeling Tool Initiative that several cotton researchers have been a part of that are looking at how all of these diseases can be modeled together utilizing weather modeling, disease model, like on-farm disease observations, as well as spore trapping, which are pictured here in these wind socks, how they can all be combined to provide holistic disease management approaches. Additionally, pulling in gene editing technology and connecting with the breeders so that we can maintain an advantage over the pathogen. Because the problem is when we breed for resistance to a particular disease or a particular nematode, we are also just bringing ourselves one step ahead of that particular disease or nematode. And that disease or nematode is going to try and gain advantage over that particular gene that we have bred into the system. And so how do we continue to stay a step ahead of the pathogens that we're dealing with. And that's going to be part of what we need to continue to do as we build into this new technologies and innovations, is we need to think about this in the broader approach as a whole system, as well as integrating chemical and biological strategies. This is about integrated disease management, utilizing the tools of predictive modeling, innovative breeding strategies, and chemical and biological control, so that we create that disease triangle to mitigate disease overall. And what this also leads us into is shifting towards a system-based research strategy, which means that we look at how the impact of rotation systems can impact the microbiome and pathogen dynamics themselves. What does this mean for biosecurity and sustainability in cotton? How do other crops contribute to disease and nematode introductions? Where can we leverage the improvements, those innovations made in other crops, so that they can increase cotton profitability? These implications that are happening as a result of changing rotations and conditions, what do they have on the practices have on biological organisms? Now, when we think about information accessibility, we have to think about how do we bring information that is technologically relevant and relevant to growers and stakeholders and individuals to the table, right? And there are several platforms that Cotton had in place when I came here. And one of them was the Grow Network. And there is a site called Focus on Cotton on the Grow Plant Health Exchange. And if you have not seen it, I really encourage you to go look at it. And this has several different webcasts and podcasts that can be downloaded or just viewed on the website, that have all different types of topics that are relevant to different areas. And so they're all put together by researchers. They're all talks that are put together by researchers across the US that are specialists in their areas. And these are freely available for anybody to go watch or listen to. Another place that has information availability is the Cotton Cultivated website. And here you can find information on production system, the market, based on your region and in the season. And this particular site pulls in information from multiple sites and blogs, and it has a fantastic weather forecast put together on a regular basis. Now, one more tool that I've been trying to put together from a disease perspective since I got here is an integrated, an interactive cotton disease estimate tool. So historically, these cotton disease loss estimates have been part of the National Cotton Council website, and they have been put together as tables. Now, they are actually accessible as a tool, and this is a video to show how to get it. This is available on the Crop Protection Network website. And so if you go to the yield loss calculators, there are the cotton yield loss, and click on cotton yield loss calculator. You can actually search for different years. So I'm selecting a 5-year period in here from 2017 to 2022, and selecting just the southern US and searching for all diseases. And so on this, as I scroll down here, you can see the US disease losses as a result of all diseases from 2017 to 2022. And this map shows the more blue it is, the more disease lost in that particular state. And each disease has a number of bales lost listed here in red. Now, there's also the option to click on individual states and see percentage losses, bushels lost, dollars per acre, and you can individualize this for each state. And so the nice thing about this as compared to previous tables is this is a lot more user-friendly of an interface. And so if you want to look at your particular state and understand how a particular disease impacts your state over a 10-year period, you can actually go through and do that. Or if you want to just see how it affected it last year, you can go through and do that. So this is a much more user-friendly interface. And so this is part of kind of moving forward what part of my goals are. And so kind of to move into some parting thoughts on this. This is a lot of different disease pictures. These are all pictures I've taken in the last, I guess, 9 months since I've been here. And something that, as a pathologist, it's really easy for me to walk into a field and find disease, right? Which not everybody appreciates, but it's one of those things that pathology is a problem that you can find anywhere. And it is not something that just happens once in a while. We need to be on guard about what we're looking for, and we always need to be aware of the problems as they might be coming ahead. And so as I'm kind of moving forward in this position, I'm keeping an eye out for some 5 and 10-year plans of what might be coming to the doorstep for us. And that's something that's on my radar, and we're working together with some fantastic researchers who are doing some excellent work throughout the US right now. And so these are many of their fields that I've been walking through. And so I really appreciate the work of US cotton researchers and everything that they've been doing. So with that, I think I am going to leave it there.